So last week I droned on for quite a long time about what I wanted to do with my life and sort of ended up on that I should try my hand at game designing. And I guess that's what I'm going to talk about now. I've been going back and forth over which game engine I should attempt to use for my experiments. My idea is to either make a point-and-click adventure game based on a short film that I wrote quite a long time ago, and the other idea is the huge and massive and work-intensive one, which is to make a 2D side-scrolling platform RPG. One of those Metroidvania games, because I'm slowly realizing now that Metroidvania actually is my jam. I didn't really know what Metroidvania was until last summer. So I'm doing quite a lot of research these days into, okay, what kind of games should I be checking out and how have they been made, which engine have they been made in, and stuff like that. So I have eventually realized that I have three very viable options for tools that I want to use or engines that I want to use. One option is Game Maker Studio, and the other is Unity, and the third one is the Unreal Engine. All of these have pros and cons, and let's go through them. Game Maker Studio appears to be sort of the surefire. If you don't know how to code, go for that one, because you can do most things just drag and drop, and it has sort of built-in code snippets and functions and stuff like that, and it has quite a large asset store that you can just, buy other people's work and put it into your game and it'll work. Now, Game Maker Studio has at times received a bit of bad rap, but there are so many games made in Game Maker Studio that are really good. I'll just mention Hyper Light Drifter. I'll mention Orphan, and I'll mention Undertale. I mean, Undertale is very low tech, but still made a huge impact. I mean, if you've been anywhere close to the internet since September 2016, you know what I'm talking about. But let's mention a drawback and one of the reasons why I'm unsure about Game Maker Studio, and that is its programming language, because Game Maker Studio uses its own programming language just called Game Maker Language. And I'm not really sure whether I should start making a game in an engine that teaches me a programming language that I'm not going to be able to use for any future higher profile games if my life takes that sort of turn. So let's say I start making a 2D platformer and I spend a couple of years doing that and I get to learn Game Maker Studio really, really well. But then I want to make a 3D game. And, Game Maker Studio might not be such a viable option because it has limitations in power or the way the code is compiled or anything like that. And then sort of think like, okay, then Unity or Unreal would be the better options. Also, I don't know if Game Maker Studio has sort of built-in particle effects. Let's say my character goes into a cold environment and I think, oh, it would be cool if we could just have some steam come out of his mouth. I'm guessing that's a stupid thing to sort of consider, but I feel quite positive that both Unity and particularly Unreal would be the better options for those kinds of effects and sort of be the future-proof way to approach this. So let's move on to one of those. If I were to just pick one out of sort of which one I really want to use, I would, without thinking twice about it, go for the Unreal Engine, because I feel like the Unreal Engine is the powerful tool that I want to work with. And every game that I've seen that utilizes the Unreal Engine properly, because a lot of people misuse it, particularly in indie games, are beautiful. You can very easily see when a game is made with the Unreal Engine because it, waterous, glossy skin looks very good. Light has this sort of particular bloom. It just looks very good. Games that utilizes are the Arkham series, the Batman games, the Shadow of Mordor, and all of those Warner Brothers games, Mad Max, and so on. So the drawback is the main programming language in the Unreal Engine is C++, which apparently is a bit of a heavier coding language to learn. It has a lot of abbreviations and you can do a lot with quite little code. So the code isn't necessarily very understandable to read. If you open someone else's code, what the code does isn't necessarily obvious. I have learned quite a lot of Java from a couple of classes at the University of Oslo that I did 2 years ago now, I guess. And sort of I have my brain wrapped around object-oriented programming, which C++ is, but Java has the advantage that every single line of code sort of is self-explanatory. So, yeah, the Unreal Engine might be sort of the heavier one for me to actually work with. It might actually take longer for me to make something with it. But I feel like if one game leads to another and then leads to another, that is the engine that I want to use. Let's move on to Unity then. Why is Unity even in the mix if I'm just torn between Unreal and GameMaker, between heavy workload and no workload, but then, learning different things? Okay. Unity for me appears to land sort of in between the two. I feel like Unity is a very powerful tool, but it does not have the beauty of the Unreal Engine, but it has a lot of the same interface. Unity is famous for having their I don't remember what it's called, if it's called Playmaker or something like that, where you sort of you string together functions, basically code snippets in a node system on a grid, so that you can sort of you dump functions in and you get away with not having to do a lot of coding, because the code will sort of be hidden there, and all you do is you change variables to get the game to feel the way you want it to feel, or play the way you want it to play, or have the character jump as high as you want her to jump. Now, both Unity and Unreal share that kind of system. Unreal has sort of followed Unity's strategy, so to speak, with what they refer to as the blueprint. So I already mentioned Unreal has C++, Unity uses C# or a version of JavaScript. You can choose between the two. C# is a much easier programming language than C++, but once again, it's that balancing sort of what do I actually want out of the game engine, and what is sort of the way forward. So, of course, most indie games, I feel like these days, are made in Unity because it seems like it's the easier tool to use. If you also want, high quality results, but an easier way to do it. The downside of Unity is that you need to buy sort of the professional version to export to multiple platforms. I think you can only export to PC, really, with the free version. So that is one con for Unity, and that brings me to another plus for Unreal. Unreal is completely free, but they take a 5% commission if you make more than such and such. And I feel like, that is fair. They have made a really powerful, beautiful engine, and they are offering their tools for free. So why not? That's a fair deal to me. 5% is nothing for that. If I'm going to go back to discussing the film business, your agent takes 10 to 15%. So, there you have it. So I have been revolving around this little triangle of game engines for quite some time, trying to figure out sort of what do I actually want to do. And it all really comes down to, okay, I am going to start top of my list. I am going to start with what I most desire to know, and that is the Unreal Engine. So in the following weeks, maybe months, I'm going to follow this 2D platform tutorial that I found and see whether it's my tool. And I'm also going to link to that tutorial series by Strigifo down in the description, so that you can do the same, and maybe we can chat about how we're doing and so on. But yeah, I'm going to start at the top of my list and then see if that's my tool, and then I'm going to work my way down. If that doesn't work, go to Unity, and then if that doesn't work, go to GameMaker. And also, meanwhile, trying to figure out what are the actual limitations. But yeah, that is going to be the path forward for me from here on. Wish me luck.